Good morning!
Who would win in a battle between these two serial killers? Toru Adachi, junior detective and Inaba's incel, or Yoshikage Kira, the hand freak of Morioh. We'll be going into their background, feats, abilities, and fighting styles, before finally answering once and for all who wins. As always, a quick disclaimer, this video will feature major spoilers for the events of Persona 4 and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Diamond is Unbreakable. If you are unfamiliar with either of these, I highly recommend you check them out before watching this video. And with that out of the way, sit back, relax, and please enjoy the video. Adachi. Oh, Adachi, my beloved. Adachi is one of my favorite characters in the entire Persona series. Definitely my favorite antagonist for sure. I'm going to try my best to give the basic rundown of his background and abilities, and hopefully refrain from glazing too much. Toru Adachi was born February 1st, 1984, and is 27 by the events of Persona 4. Toru Adachi didn't have the worst upbringing, but it wasn't easy either. His parents only cared about his grades, and he didn't have many friends. He worked hard in his youth, but this only gave him a sense of entitlement. Then, for what Adachi calls a botched job, he is transferred to the Inaba police station in the spring of 2011, where he begins working under Rotaro Dojima, as the two begin investigating the string of recent murders that plague the town. Under Dojima, Adachi is usually reserved for menial tasks and is constantly swamped in Dojima's paperwork. Adachi is underpaid and often has to resort to daily meals of tasteless boiled cabbage and the occasional cup of ramen noodles, but admits he could do better, but chooses not to. Adachi originally did not have a social link, but in Persona 4 Golden, it's revealed he possesses the Hunger Arcana, or the Lust Arcana if you're playing the Japanese version, and it shares personas with the Jester Arcana. Like the Aeon Arcana, Hunger/Lust Arcana is not found in standard tarot decks, though the Devil shares similar traits and symbolism. The Lust Arcana is the Thoth tarot equivalent of the Strength Arcana, numbered 11th. Lust symbolizes the danger of losing control, of being consumed by power. The card also implies strength, but strength which comes through dominance. It's not true power, but the pure bliss of abusing power. Just as lust is the Thoth equivalent of strength, the Jester is meant to invoke the Fool, number 0, though that's mainly because the Jester is just one of the multiple names the Fool has obtained over the centuries. The Jester symbolizes much of what the Fool symbolizes: ignorance, spontaneity, and freedom, but in a suppressed form. In the case of the Jester, the querent is misguided and unwilling to work with others, in contrast to the Fool, who is compatible with everyone. Ultimately, the Jester acts like a fool instead of genuinely being a fool. Eventually, Adachi grows to resent humanity and becomes a vessel for Amano Sagiri. But for the sake of this video, I won't be considering that to be a part of his abilities, as Amano Sagiri is a completely separate entity itself. Like the protagonist, Adachi gains his persona through his encounter with Izanami. Throughout the game, Adachi is played out to be comedic relief, until the final arc where it's revealed that Adachi was the true culprit, and the one responsible for the initial murders the whole time. In the final battle with the protagonist, Adachi reveals his persona, Magatsu Izanagi, meaning Calamity Izanagi, a reflection of the protagonist's own persona. Izanagi, or Izanaki, formerly referred to with divine honorific as Izanagi no Mikoto, meaning he who invites, or the male who invites. Izanagi is the creator deity of both creation and life in Japanese mythology. Magatsu Izanagi's design is in reference to the story of Izanagi's descent into Yomotsu Hirasaka, or Yomi for short, the land of the dead. Izanagi descends to Yomi to retrieve his twin sister. You see, Izanagi and his twin sister, well, let's just say they were more than just siblings. And Izanami eventually gave birth to the god of fire, Kagutsushi, and due to being a god of fire, he kind of accidentally kills his mother when he's born. This pissed Izanagi off so bad that he kills Katsuguchi with his 10-grasp sword, which just sounds like a badass anime weapon. Anyways, it wasn't all bad, as more gods manifested into existence out of Izanami's excreta, Kagutsushi's mutilated remains, and Izanagi's tears. And Jesus Christ, that's metal. But apparently this wasn't enough for Izanagi, hence his visit to the land of the dead. However, upon arriving to Yomi, she reveals that she had already partaken of food cooked in the furnace of the underworld, rendering her return to the overworld impossible. Eating this food also pretty much turned her evil. This pisses Izanagi off so much he starts going ham on everybody. Izanagi dispatched all the gods of thunder and the hags of Yomi, and a horde of warriors sent by Izanami to chase after him. In the end, he's barely able to escape, and after killing horde after horde of Oni, he's drenched in demon blood. And that's the whole explanation of how we get this design for Magatsu Izanagi, Adachi's persona. So let's get into his abilities. Adachi has 4,200 HP and 2,200 in SP, with his most notable stats being strength and endurance. He's strong against physical attacks and immune to light and dark attacks. He also has an assortment of strong physical and elemental attacks as well. He can buff himself and debuff his enemies in a couple different ways. Similar to the protagonist, Adachi has a very strong, well-rounded persona, built for strength and endurance. We must also consider his fighting style, and while there's not much to go on due to Persona being a turn-based RPG, we know that Adachi is pretty damn sneaky and a lot smarter than he lets off. He avoids any kind of confrontation if he can, but when push comes to shove, he's not afraid to fight. And he stands extremely confident in front of the protagonist and his crew during the final battle. And although I don't think it'll make a difference, Adachi does also wield a pistol due to being a police officer. So overall, Adachi is a pretty strong opponent. Definitely stronger than most of the characters in Persona aside from the MCs and antagonists. But next, we have the serial murderer of Morioh, Yoshikage Kira. Kira was born January 30th, 1966, and is 33 at the time of Diamond is Unbreakable. He is native born to the town of Morioh, and he lived a relatively normal childhood, making sure he never stood out by having mediocre grades, and in any competition he was in, Kira made sure to never rank above third place. According to his neighbors, he seemed to be close with his parents. However, in truth, Araki revealed Kira was in an abusive relationship with his mother, who was overprotective of him, while his father, Yoshino Kira, turned a blind eye to it. At a young age, Kira discovered he had a hand fetish, when he found himself aroused by the Mona Lisa's hands in an art book, cutting them off to look at in private. Kira committed his first murder on August 13th, 1983, at the age of 18, starting his spree on Remi Sugimoto and her entire family, including their dog, Arnold. From that point on, he would continue his spree of murders by stabbing his victims so viciously that they were left with horrific back wounds. Kira's stand, Killer Queen, came as a result of his father, Yoshino Kira, giving him a stand arrow that he himself received from Enya and Dio. Killer Queen manifested from his desire to leave no evidence from his killings behind, developing an ability to make its victims disintegrate completely. Due to his parents already being old when he was born, his father died from cancer when Kira was 21, and his mother passed away shortly after. Though the number of missing people would eventually attract attention, no one would have any reason to suspect Yoshikage Kira was involved due to his simple demeanor and lifestyle. Kira graduated from D University in 1988 with a literature degree, then moved to S City for a job at Kamiyu's corporate office. He eventually transferred to the Morioh branch in 1993. Kira would go on to kill 46 women for their hands before the beginning of the story. Killer Queen is a short-range humanoid stand of average speed and melee attacking power. Although is undeniably physically powerful, it is overshadowed by other close-range stands like Crazy Diamond and Star Platinum, and thus Kira relies more on invading his enemies or using Killer Queen's set of powers to prevail. Killer Queen's powers revolve around setting up different kinds of bombs that can annihilate Kira's enemies in one blast. His first ability being his most used, Bomb Transmutation. The the ability to turn anything he touches, inanimate or not, into a bomb. Once a target has touched the object, Killer Queen can detonate the target by pressing its right thumb onto a trigger located on its index finger, imitating the action of pressing down on a handheld detonator. If someone else touches the charged target before Kira can detonate it, they will automatically be blown up instead, consuming the charge. This can also be done through direct contact with Killer Queen or Kira himself, skipping the charging process. It seems that the explosion, while it doesn't harm the environment, does cause damage to nearby people, as seen in the case of Shigechi, being hurt at point-blank range, but not being outright killed. This is also seen when Kira detonates one of Stray Cat's air bullets, harming Josuke but not blowing him up outright. There are several limitations to this ability. First, if Kira or Killer Queen cannot press their thumb against their index finger to trigger the bomb's detonation, the target cannot blow up. In addition, since this power is similar to incendiary bombs, it cannot induce their explosions if there is no air, as demonstrated by Stray Cat disabling a bomb by creating a vacuum around it. Finally, Killer Queen can only charge one object at a time. Next is Killer Queen's second ability, Sheer Heart Attack. This treaded automatic bomb detaches from Killer Queen's left hand. It is completely autonomous and has a great range, so Kira can safely engage Sheer Heart Attack and move a great distance away from it while it carries out its duties. It seeks out whatever the warmest object in the vicinity is, even changing targets the second a warmer object appears. Upon reaching its target, it automatically induces an explosion with power and blast size equivalent to the heat of the target. If Sheer Heart Attack's explosion was set off by a non-human source, it will continue to seek out targets until it explodes from a human. Like Killer Queen's first bomb, Sheer Heart Attack's explosions remove all physical evidence of the target. The body of Sheer Heart Attack is nigh indestructible, withstanding countless blows from Jotaro's Star Platinum, but it can still be affected by non-damaging stand powers, and cracked if pulled apart at the mouth with tremendous force. Its main drawback lies in its autonomous nature, which will sometimes prevent Sheer Heart Attack from prioritizing killing Kira's intended human target. Secondly, it needs to explode from making contact with a human target to fully dissipate. Should Sheer Heart Attack need to be deactivated while actively seeking a target, the user must physically return in the range of Sheer Heart Attack to deactivate and retrieve it. Furthermore, Sheer Heart Attack can continue to be active even after Kira's hand has been cut off, seen when he uses this ability to escape Josuke and company. Cutting off his hand even gives Sheer Heart Attack more power, as well as the ability to withstand even Echo's Act 3 freeze. And lastly, Kira's third and most powerful ability, Bites the Dust. Kira is granted this ability when Yoshihiro Kira's stand creating arrow pierces him a second time. It is born from Kira's desire to prevent anyone from knowing his true identity, as well as his desperation following his impulsive murder of Hayato Kawajiri. This bomb appears as a miniaturized form of Killer Queen that hides inside whoever it is planted in. It acts independently of Kira's will, manifesting only when the bomb is triggered. When planted in Hayato, it activates when Kira's identity is revealed audibly or through writing, as well as when other stand users see the miniature Killer Queen. When this happens, a miniature Killer Queen enters the eye of the person and causes an explosion, killing them. The bomb can detonate multiple people simultaneously. After killing someone with its power, Bites the Dust creates a temporal loop, blowing up time to roughly 1 hour prior to the detonation. Because Bites the Dust is completely independent and autonomous, Kira is not aware of who is killed by it, nor is he directly aware of whether a time loop has taken place. In fact, the only person who retains memory of each time loop is the person harboring Bites the Dust. All actions performed in the previous time loop are destined to occur as they had happened. Slight deviations may happen, but any person killed by Bites the Dust in a previous time loop is destined to explode at the exact time that they were previously killed, even if they did not reactivate Bites the Dust in the current timeline. Because the person in whom the bomb is planted must be alive in order to activate the trigger, Bites the Dust will never harm the person with its explosions, nor let them be harmed by other forces, demonstrated when the miniature Killer Queen prevented Hayato from slitting his own throat with a knife to prevent anyone else from dying. Ironically, Bites the Dust also prevents the stand user themselves from harming the bomb's carrier, with the miniature killer queen intercepting Kira's fist when he tries to punch Hayato. It also appears to be able to revive that person if they are dead when it is activated, as Hayato was alive once more when Kira planted it in him, after impulsively killing him, implying that time was looped to prevent Hayato from dying again the same way. The only way to stop Bites the Dust effects is to outright kill Kira, or otherwise force him to withdraw it. Should this occur, all timelines created using Bites the Dust are erased. Additionally, using Bites the Dust forcibly prevents Kira from activating any of Killer Queen's other abilities, because Killer Queen is planted in the body of the third party. Thus, he must deactivate Bites the Dust and withdraw Killer Queen if he needs to defend himself. Hayato also deduces that Bites the Dust only works on non-stand users, as Kira can only tell a non-stand user his secrets to enable the ability. Like Adachi, Kira attempts to avoid any and all confrontation if possible, but Kira has been known to get overconfident on occasion, which usually leads to his downfall, like when he underestimated a heavily injured Jotaro and paid for it severely. It's pretty easy to see the similarities between Adachi and Kira. Both are serial killers who operate in a small town, before being caught and defeated by a group of high school aged children, and in Kira's case, a group of high school children and Jotaro. Kinda got unlucky on that one. But who would win in a battle? First, we have to demonstrate what kind of a situation that would lead to the two engaging in a one-on-one battle. I think this one is fairly simple. You could either have a situation where both killers target the same victim and end up running into each other, or you could have a situation where Adachi realizes there's another killer present and ends up discovering Kira, similar to how Josuke did in the final arc. And in case this wasn't obvious, this version of Adachi can summon his persona in the overworld, and since this is the case, I think it's fair both fighters should be able to perceive each other's abilities due to their similar properties. So let's go with the second option first. Adachi begins to gather and collect information on Kira and runs into him after he's already developed his Bites the Dust ability. First of all, Adachi would have to get very lucky for this to happen. It's very likely he'd run into Hayato the same way Rohan did, and his fate would pretty much be sealed from that point on. But let's say he can get past Hayato. Does he stand a chance? Unlikely. Kira's greatest asset in this fight would be his experience. Kira is a mastermind when it comes to fighting. Has he made mistakes? Yes, a few of them actually. But in terms of combat experience, Adachi basically has none by the time he fights the protagonist. Kira has faced Shigechi, Koichi, and even Jotaro by the time he unlocks his third ability. One of his greatest feats of intelligence is when he fights Josuke from outside the house by sending in air bombs with Stray Cat. The fact that he had the foresight to use his own father as a kind of makeshift GPS tracker is genius. Obviously, Kira wouldn't have access to his father for this fight, but I argue that he should be able to use Stray Cat, because while Stray Cat is a completely separate stand, Kira utilizes it like a weapon, the same way you would wield a pistol, and Stray Cat alone is enough to really put Adachi at a disadvantage. Remember, it's only for artistic reasons that we can see the bubbles launched by Stray Cat. These bubbles are completely invisible to its victims, and they are powerful. But even if he doesn't have access to Stray Cat, I would still favor Kira in this situation. After all, what if he uses Sheer Heart Attack? Kira never uses Sheer Heart Attack outside of his introduction arc, because its weakness had already been exploited. But this would be the first time Adachi had ever encountered Kira, with stopping Kira from activating Sheer Heart Attack and going about business as usual while his automatic stand cleans house. I'll answer that. Nothing. But what would happen if Adachi ran into Kira without Bites the Dust and without Stray Cat? While I still think the cards are in Kira's favor, I must admit Adachi has a much greater chance this time around. I think the element of surprise would really be crucial here. If Adachi can land a hit on Kira before Kira could do anything about it, it's very possible Adachi could kill Kira in one hit, depending on how you scale persona abilities, that is. But I think what it still comes down to at the end of the day is experience, and that's why I have to give it to Kira. Adachi has 3 kills. Kira has 46. Adachi is new to this. Kira's been doing this shit since he was 18. He's a veteran at this shit. Sure, Adachi could try to take the first shot and take Kira out before he could react. But what have we seen from Adachi that makes you think he would ever do that? Adachi 9 times out of 10 strikes when his opponents aren't looking, and when they can't fight back. When he is finally confronted at the end of the game, what did he do? Run, run, and run until he had nowhere to run, and you finally cornered him. As we saw from the young couple that Kira obliterated, when Kira is in kill mode, he does not give a fuck. If the two ever ran into each other chasing the same prey, I would feel bad for what Kira would do to Adachi. To put it simply, I love Adachi, I really do, but Kira is just built different. And that's why if the two ever fought, Kira would win, low to mid diff. I also reached this conclusion using Star Platinum as a baseline. As Kira always struggled against Star Platinum, he did survive and get the better of Jotaro on one occasion. And nearly it would have been two if it weren't for Koichi stepping in at the last second. And in no way do I believe that Adachi and Magatsu Izanagi are near to Jotaro in Star Platinum in destructive power, speed, or durability, even without time stop, and definitely not in intelligence or experience. If we use Jotaro and Star Platinum as a basis, I see no reason why Kira and Killer Queen wouldn't be able to beat Adachi. But hey, that's just my opinion. Disagree? Don't like it? Or don't like me for whatever reason? Let me know down in the comments down below, or leave a dislike if you want. That's what it's there for. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. It really helps in the algorithm when you interact with it. So if you could, that would be greatly appreciated. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.